Mayer from Aaron Mayer Runs and the Everyday Runner, and I'm so excited to chat with you this week. And our host, Steph Dunlop, who I follow from TikTok, and she's an amazing human. She's a race pacer. I'm sure we're going to get into that because she just is a ball of energy with so much resource, knowledge, and excitement. And I just cannot wait to hear about her running journey. But before we do, I need to let you know some really big news. So right now, if you go to hopecastnetwork.com, you can leave me a voicemail of any question you have or anything that you'd like to chat about in the show so I can respond personally to you. So make sure to go to hopecastnetwork.com and also share the show in your stories on social media. The more we share, the more we can expand our network. The more we can expand our network and our community, the more we can help other people pay it forward, get excited about movement, get excited about their health and wellness and their journey. So something happened with my screen. I'm back. All right. Steph, welcome to the show. How are you today?
Hey, Erin. I'm doing fabulous. How are you doing?
I'm just so excited and I'm loving your vest right now that you're wearing, a pink vest. Tell our listeners what you're wearing right now. Not that I just get excited about it because I could totally tell it's running gear.
If I could, I would wear running gear all day, every day, right?
Yes.
But this is like one of my favorite combos. Of course, Brooks Running is my go-to apparel and shoes. But yeah, I'm having wearing this nice Brooks pink vest with a matching like Run Happy pink shirt underneath. And yeah, it's kind of like my what's it called? Uniform. There we go.
Yes, it's like your power outfit. Like you're like if you could manifest that you could be in running clothes every day, that would be joyous. I know for me, I don't know if you know this, I used to be a general manager for Olive Garden restaurants. And
Oh.
I did that for years. And the amount of years I had to iron clothes and get dressed and look just so, I was like, I am done with this. I don't want to do this anymore. So the day I finally could like toss in my restaurant safety shoes, my slip resistant shoes, and just chill in sneakers was like amazing. It was probably the most exciting day because I just love being in my gear. So Steph Dunlop. So everybody's clear. We're gonna all go to TikTok and go to Run Strong Run. You're gonna go follow her immediately. Let me give you a second. Go to Run Strong Run. You're gonna follow her on TikTok, Instagram, all the places. I'm sure we'll have them in the show notes because you're gonna see she's a ton of fun. But I really, Steph, want to get into your running story. Like, have you always been into running? That's what we need to know.
No, in fact, I used to say this body doesn't run. I said that for so many years. I was like, the only time you'll ever see me running is if a bear is chasing me or something, right? But it was actually 2011. I stood on the sidelines of a marathon. I don't think I even knew what a marathon truly was, but I stood on the sidelines of a marathon because I had some friends running it. At the time, I was actually living in Mexico, in Torreon, Coahuila, Mexico, teaching third grade at an international school. And this marathon course um, was like near my apartment complex. So I left my apartment building and went to go cheer on some people. It was around like mile 20 or so of this marathon. And I was flabbergasted. Like, oh, wait a minute, these people had already run like 20 miles and they weren't yet done. And to see like all these people running, like different sizes, different ethnicities, different ages, like different paces, I was so incredibly inspired that all of a sudden my thought process went from this body doesn't run to why not me? Why can't I be one of those people? And so like the very next day I went out for my first training run and made it 1 block. And I was like, this is horrible. This hurts. This is difficult. But, I was determined because I said, why not me? Why can't I be one of those people? And so that is truly like the start to my journey. That same marathon that I stood on the sidelines of in 2011, I actually ran that marathon in 2012, the Lala Marathon, March 4th, 2012. And as I like to say, like the rest is history. But I'm very proud that I went from like 0 to 26.2 miles in a year.
Wow. I can relate, and I'm sure a lot of our listeners can relate so much to your story as far as that mindset of, I'm not a runner. I don't have a runner's body. I was not made to run. I know I'm very similar. I only run if I'm being chased. And because I think there's this big misperception that like you have to look a certain way or you have to run a certain pace. Or I know I live in Massachusetts. So anytime someone hears I'm a runner, they immediately say, "Do you run Boston?" Like immediately. And they just assume I'm like this like gazelle, and that's not the case. And that doesn't make you a runner. And so it's amazing to hear how you really transitioned and you changed the dialogue for yourself. So, can you tell us during your first marathon, was there like a pivotal memory, like what is that movie, Inside Out, where they talk about like a core memory? Do you have a core memory or a core moment of that marathon that was either like a yay or what was I thinking kind of thing?
A few come to mind. First, I would say I actually ran like the first 17 miles without stopping. And that was, I think, huge for me. So then, we've all probably been there if you've ever run a marathon. Like there comes a certain point in the marathon that you're like, everything hurts and I'm dying. I don't think I can continue on. But I think my longest training run leading up to that point was like 17, 18 miles. So really like I was entering the unknown space. Like how is my body now going to respond after these 17, 18 miles onto the finish line? And so I think that was real pivotal, that moment of like celebrate, wow, I just ran all those miles and that was incredible. But then I was like, now what? And then I think the real like core memory, of course, is coming into that finish line of your very first marathon. And I think that's what keeps me coming back for more. To date, right now, I've run 51 total full marathons, and I keep going back for more because I'm trying to recreate that first finish line feeling. But I think I've learned that nothing's ever going to compare. I just crossing that finish line. To kind of a little bit more about my history is I was in an abusive marriage and was not a runner, kind of had this like whole journey of better physical health, emotional health, spiritual health. And so crossing that finish line truly was a pivotal moment of like, wow, I'm so strong. Like, look what I just did. I overcame the abusive marriage. Like, I'm living in a foreign country, teaching, living my dream. I just ran a marathon. Like, who am I? And so that whole like term, run strong, run, it's so much more about physical strength, but it's about that emotional, spiritual, mental strength of you feel so unstoppable.
Wow. I love that. I love that. And I'm so glad to hear that you're safe and in a better space and in a healthier space. Because I'm sure, why don't we do this? Do you have any, if anybody's listening and they are in a space where they're looking for help, do you have any advice where they could go, where they could, I'm sure I could look up hotlines and we could drop it in the show notes, but do you have any? I don't have any knowledge. So anything that you have that you're comfortable with sharing.
Well, first, just know that you are deserving of love and being safe. And so do not accept anything less than that. And for me, it was my parents were really pivotal in helping me leave that abusive marriage. And so I'm so grateful for them. So I know not everyone is in that place where they have that familiar or family to support them. So, but just know that you are deserving of love and to be treated well.
I love that. I love that. And you know what? We'll get some resources. We'll drop in the show notes and we'll make sure that they're there for folks if anybody's feeling like they need some help and they can get some help because that's so important. So let me ask you more about that year of I'm never gonna run to I'm gonna run a marathon. Did you follow any type of training? Did you kind of just wing it? What did you do to do that within a year?
So I love that question because actually, I don't even know how I got to this place, but the first thing I started training for was a sprint triathlon. So I went from non-runner to I'm going to train for a triathlon. I don't know why, but I was living in Mexico at the time. So this was March that I stood on the sidelines of that marathon. And so I knew I was going to come home to California that summer after the school year was over. So I found a sprint triathlon close to my home, which is a I believe it was a half mile swim, 16-mile bike ride, and then a 5K run at the end. And so the school I was working at in Mexico actually had a lap pool. So I went after school and swam laps with my third graders, and they swam much faster than me. I found a local like spin studio, and that's where I got some bike riding miles in. And then of course I started just running on the street. And so that was my first kind of like starting to train for what then led to a marathon. But then come fall, when I went back to Mexico for my second school year, there were like races in Mexico like every weekend, and they were like pretty cheap. Like we're talking like $10 US dollar registration fees. I mean, I ran a race like every single weekend, like 10Ks, 5Ks, things like that. It wasn't until Christmas, so December of 2011, that my brother gave me a Garmin watch for Christmas, a Garmin Forerunner. And I was like, okay, if my brother thinks that I'm a runner, like maybe I need to sign up for this marathon. So it wasn't actually until like December that I was like, okay, I'm going to sign up for this marathon in March. And my mileage had kind of been increasing. And I don't even know if I like followed a marathon training plan. I think so, maybe like Hal Higdon or something. But that was kind of how I went from 0 to 26.2 miles.
Oh my goodness. Wow. Wow. Yeah. Races here are not $10.
No.
Not $10 at all. I think it's one of those sports where people just assume it's like a cheap hobby, and it can be, until all of a sudden you get the bug, and then it's like it's over. There goes your bank account. You're all set. You're broke now. Enjoy. All right. So let me ask you this. So you show up, you run your first race. Then how did you progress from there? Like, did you to eventually become a pacer? And maybe explain to our listeners what a pacer is, because people outside of the running spectrum will not know what a pacer is.
Yes. So after crossing that first finish line of that sprint triathlon in the summer of 2011, I was hooked. I was like, I love this feeling. I want more. And so that's why, I had friends that were runners. And so I just started running with my friends and doing all the races. And then crossing that first marathon finish line in March of 2012, I was, of course, in a lot of pain. I know this might be a question you ask me later, but I made a really bad mistake of laying in bed for the rest of the day that day after running a marathon. And that is the worst thing you can do, because I was then so stiff and so sore. Best thing to do is just keep moving, keep walking. But anyways, and so then after that first marathon, when I could start feeling my body again, I started to look up, okay, when's the next one? And I ran my next marathon in fall of 2013, in October of that year. And so I kind of kept saying, like, what's next? What's next? Well, fast forward to 2016, so only 4 years after running my first marathon, I was like, 2016 is actually where I found the online running community on Instagram. And I saw someone post about being a pacer. And I was like, pacer, what's that? And so I started kind of doing my own research. And I was like, okay, a pacer is assigned a finish time, or like a pace per mile. They hold that sign. Oh, I actually have a pace sign right here. But even though anyways, people can't see it, but I have a pace sign here, right here in my hand.
We do clips sometimes. They go on Instagram, and I'm going to take your picture with your pacer sign. Ready? I'm going to post it in the stories when the show goes up so everybody can see you. Pink vest, pacer. There we go.
But so I was like, okay, so the benefit of being a pacer, well, one, you get to encourage other people. You get to meet other runners. You get to talk. I like to talk. I like to encourage. I was a cheerleader in high school, and people say once a cheerleader, always a cheerleader. I also love math and like calculations. I'm very like mathematical minded. So the idea of trying to hold a consistent pace for every mile and come within your assigned finish time within a minute, never over, really intrigued me. I was like, ooh, that sounds like really fun. And then also big benefit of being a pacer is you get free race entry. So I was like, I want to run all the races. I want to talk and meet all the people. This sounds like this is a gig for me. So ever since starting to pace in 2016, I now mostly only pace. I rarely race, because here's the benefit too of being a pacer. It takes away all that pressure of like trying to earn a PR, like a personal best, right? That's how people lead to that's what leads to burnout. That's what leads to injury, when you're trying to push your body, run fast all the time and trying to get that personal best. Now I just get to I mean, now mind you, I still have to train to pace a 6-hour marathon, but I get to sit back. I get to do my 90-second run, 90-second walk intervals, drink beer at mile 19 of a marathon, and have a great party 26.2 miles.
I love that. I love that. So, what is your most memorable pacing moment, would you say? Either for yourself or somebody, like, is there something that stands out that was most impactful or biggest memory?
Absolutely. I often say my biggest running accomplishment that I'm like so proud of is becoming the California International Marathon's first 6-hour pacer in 2021, because to me, that just shows that they value providing support for the back of the pack. So before I became CIM's 6-hour pacer, the last pace group they had was 5:20, which is the last qualifying Boston qualifying time. Because often races provide pacers to help people earn their BQs. Whereas for me, often pacing 5:50 or 6-hour marathon, for me, it's about providing support to get those runners across the finish line, often their first marathon finish line. Or sometimes, okay, so I have to tell you too, 2021 for December, I also got to meet Bruce Malden. He is one of the last 5 remaining CIM streakers. He was actually on my first interview of my podcast, the Run Strong Run podcast, where I amplify the stories from the back of the pack, these people I meet, encouraging people. But Bruce has run every single CIM since 1984 when it first started. So I would have to say for me, CIM is a race I often talk about and I'm really proud of, because also it's like I consider it my hometown marathon. It's in Sacramento. I live a little bit north of Sacramento, but to be the first 6-hour pacer, for it to be like near my hometown and to be able to support people like Bruce Malden, who is now, I don't know, maybe I think he's like later 60s, 70s, I'm not sure, a young thing. But to be a CIM streaker, which means run every single CIM year after year after year, just means so much to me. And CIM is always my biggest pace group. I have like 20 to 30 people with me the entire way, which is uncommon for me. Usually I'll have a handful. Sometimes it's only one person. Sometimes I'm out there by myself. So to have 20 to 30 people with me the whole way, that's huge.
That's amazing. I love that. I love that. And I think a lot of times we miss the amount of respect that those back of the pack party pacers um, need and deserve. Because yes, it's a lot of work and effort to run a 3-4 hour marathon, but to actually be disciplined to stick to something for 6 hours, no matter how long like you're doing 6 hours of movement, is wild. It's wild. And I think a lot of times people overlook how amazing that kind of discipline is. It's just, it blows my mind. So let me ask you, what is your like fueling strategy for yourself? Because I would imagine, I know, I'm like a 5:30, 5:20 marathoner. We, depending on how often you eat, you've got a lot of snacks with you. How often are you eating and what are you having when you're racing?
You would think after 51 marathons, I'd have it like nailed down and I would like know to a T. No, I feel like I'm still kind of playing around with it. I used to do like every 45 minutes fuel, and then I moved it to every 30 minutes because I tend to find like in those later miles, I get really hungry, like stomach growling and I'm hungry. But it's really because I'm like, I don't want another gel. I don't want another chew. I want like something real. I want like pizza. I want a hamburger. I want a sandwich. Like I want like real food, or a beer. Man, a nice ice cold can of beer really hits the spot, I'm telling you. So my go-to is usually chews. I'm not a big gel fan because the texture. And I try to do every 30 minutes and I'm good for like the first 3. So like, 30 minutes, hour and a half. And then my watch alerts me saying nutrition alert, but then I'm like kind of like, either I miss it or I'm like, ugh, I don't want something, so I still kind of play around with it.
So I had somebody on the show a couple months ago say that one of the things that they have when they race to help with cramping is mustard packets from McDonald's. They said mustard packets. I was like, I don't know. I'd try almost anything to like, play around with it, but I don't know that I could do packets of mustard. I think I could do maybe Chick-fil-A sauce, but that would even be questionable too. I don't know about mustard. So now let me ask you this. So, and I know you kind of teetered on it a little bit before. When it comes to running, because we can learn from each other's mistakes, what is the biggest mistake you've ever made throughout your running journey?
One thing that comes to mind is when I was pregnant and did a half marathon, the Rock and Roll San Diego Marathon. That was like 2018. And I bought these brand new pair of shoes at the expo. And they're like these tie-dye shoes. I knew better. I knew better not to wear them for the race, but they were just so darn cute that I just couldn't help myself. And so I wore them. They were not a shoe that I'd ever like worn before, like the style. Because I feel like sometimes if you wear like the same style shoe, you can like get away with wearing a new shoe for like a longer distance, because I have done that since this moment in time. But for this race, I think also too, being pregnant and just having like extra fluid or whatnot didn't help. But I wore these brand new shoes for this half marathon, and I seriously contemplated on ditching my shoes midway through the race and just continuing barefoot, because that's how bad my feet felt.
Oh my goodness, no, I can't fathom. So I didn't start running till after kids. So I never ran pregnant or anything like that, or I never did strollers. So that's really foreign to me. But you ran pregnancy and all. So how far into your pregnancy did you run, or did you like run and give birth and then you ran the next day kind of person?
No, I'm definitely not one of those people. My first pregnancy in 2018, well, I think also I need to add that I started with fertility treatments in 2017. So IVF, had 2 failed transfer rounds, and then on my third transfer in March of 2018, that was a success. So that was now then my when I was pregnant in 2018, I ran this half marathon. I actually did 6 half marathons in that pregnancy, but I say that, but it was not a healthy pregnancy. Like, yes, I showed up and I did these half marathons, but I was not eating like to make my body like feel good. And I was not really training in between. So I would kind of like just show up and say, oh, I did a half marathon. So, I mean, I think my last race was October. I did like a Halloween based like 10K. I went down from the half marathon to the 10K, which I'm so glad I did. And then I gave birth. She was born November 29th. So like I was quite pregnant for that 10K.
Wow. So with all your races, have you ever had, and I'm nervous to ask because I don't want to jinx anything, but have you ever dealt with any kind of injuries before? Or are you the type, you're just trucking along, like it's not been an issue?
I do think a part of it that plays into injury prevention is kind of just like how a person's body is designed. So I'm just very blessed to have a body that has taken up running really well. But I think too, a piece of it is one, strength training. Like, are you incorporating strength training with your running? And I do. I love strength training. So I usually strength train. Even so, currently my schedule is I strength train 3 days a week in this hour-long semi-private training class at 5 a.m. And then I run 3 days a week. So with training for a marathon, I only run 3 days a week. Now, sometimes in that 5 a.m. class 3 days a week, we like do a mile, or we do like some sprints or things like that. But yeah, I have never had a running injury, and this is 2025. So what's that? I've been running for 14 years and no injury.
That's awesome. Well, we're going to keep that energy going forever for you. So now with running, I'm going to ask you one of my favorite questions, and you can share as much as you'd like or whatever you're comfortable with. But what is the most embarrassing thing that's ever happened to you or that you've seen when you've been out on a run?
Well, first, I don't think I'm really someone that gets embarrassed very easily. A story I recently told at work that people were like shocked by was that I was pacing a half marathon, and there were like hardly any porta potties on course, and I really had to go. And so we came up on this hill and then had to turn around and come back down the hill, and there was like this truck there, and I believe it was like a police vehicle or something. But I was like, I really have to go to the bathroom, and the police said, just go behind the truck, and I did. So like, people at work were shocked. They're like, you went like to the bathroom like in the public and like on the street. And I was like, yeah, the police officer told me I could, like when you gotta go, you gotta go.
Yep.
And then I remember, as a female, sometimes we unfortunately start our menstrual cycle while running. And I remember that actually CIM, I forget which year, but I remember I started while pacing or running this marathon, 26.2 miles. And fortunately, my shorts were black. So the only sad part was I got to the finish line. I was like, oh, I guess no post race massage for me. I'll just head to my car.
Oh, yeah, I feel like, so I don't know if you know this. There's a race, I think it's in Florida. This is probably way too much information for the listeners, and people are going to unfollow the show immediately. And you might never speak to me again as I say this, but so I guess there's a run in Florida that's a naked run. Have you heard about that?
No, but also here in California, we have in the Bay Area called Bay to Breakers, and
Yeah.
it's known for nude runners. To me, that just sounds really uncomfortable.
Right? So what's sad is my mind when I heard about this naked run is having my cycle and having to deal with that. Like if I was committed to do it and either like tampon or what, or if it happened mid race, like that's what my mind went to. Beyond like I wouldn't run naked. It's just I just couldn't. I just picture things flapping and going, it just being very uncomfortable. I picture chafing in new spaces that I never imagined before. So I wouldn't do it. But I did immediately think of when you get your menstrual cycle, like what? Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. Maybe too much information, but I just kind of wonder, what do people do in that situation? So, have you done a naked run before?
Well, I did Beta Breakers. I don't remember which year, few years ago. I did not. I was fully clothed. I was actually dressed as an avocado.
Oh my goodness, I love that.
Because Beta Breakers is like a costume run. So some people run nude and a lot of people wear costumes. I wore an avocado and the back of it said like you guac. Something about like a play on words about like guacamole or avocado or something. And it was so funny. A number of people who were like on the sidelines saying "Go avocado, go!" Or I was happy people knew that I was dressed as an avocado. But yeah, they're also Beta Breakers. It's a thing at the starting line to throw tortillas in the air. I don't know. It's like has to do with good luck or I don't know. But they throw tortillas in the air. So my friend was taking a video of me throwing this tortilla in the air at the starting line of Beta Breakers, and I couldn't share the video because in the background of my video there was a nude person.
My goodness, I can't. Like it'd be like one of those things. Like I don't want to look, but you probably couldn't help but look because it's just like all in your face.
Well, and often it's well, so the person in the background was an older gentleman and he had a space blanket on, but no like bottoms.
If the listeners could see my face right now, I can't fathom. I can't fathom. I don't even know what I'd do. I don't even know. I don't even know if I'd be able to hold it in, come out. I don't know. I'd be afraid I'd get hit. Like I don't know. All right, we're gonna move on and keep this G. We're gonna keep this PG and move on because I can see my brain going where it shouldn't. So let's do this, Steph. Tell us what you're doing and what you're up to and what you're offering to people because I know you've got some exciting things that you recently shared on TikTok, on Instagram. Tell the listeners what you have going on and how you can be of service to them, especially if they're looking to start running or step up their running game.
Yeah, thank you so much for asking, Erin. I'm so excited to share that I am now officially a run coach, and I most recently established and created this course called Interval Running for Beginners, Starting Smart and Strong. Because, like you talked, Erin, about like, have I ever had an injury? And no, I did 14 full marathons in 2024, and people often ask me like, how do you keep doing back to back to back marathons? And I would say one of the big things is using run walk intervals. It's has so many amazing benefits. And you can truly use run walk intervals from like a 10-minute pace per mile, all the way to like, an 18-minute pace per mile. Like, so it's so flexible how you can use run walk intervals. I mean, probably even faster than 10 minutes per mile too. But so you can go to runstrongrun.com, and that's where you can find information. I have a blog, I have the Run Strong Run podcast, I have my course, Interval Running for Beginners, Starting Smart and Strong. And I'm just so excited to help other people fall in love with running, because I know how transformative it has been for me. And I want to see other people find joy in the sport, avoid injury, and avoid burnouts, because our goal is to run strong well into our 80s and beyond.
Yes. Yes, yes, yes. Absolutely. I love that. That is amazing. Everybody needs to go to the website, check it out, see what Steph is doing, and reach out to her, because I totally agree that it doesn't have to be an all or nothing kind of thing, and finding the right balance. And what I love is that you're offering something that not many run coaches have out there. So, congratulations on expanding your offering to helping folks get started. And tell us again, what's your accounts on Instagram, TikTok? Where can we find you? One more time.
Yes, you can find me on all the socials, Run Strong Run, or in Spanish, Corre Fuerte Corre, because that's where it all came from. It started from in Mexico. I'm not Hispanic. I just wish I were Hispanic. But yeah, so Run Strong Run, because we're finding strength in life, running strong mind, body, and spirit.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Steph, for coming on with us today. Thank you, everybody, for listening to this week's episode. We will see you next time. I kept freezing, but I think the audio worked fine. I could see my face was freezing.